they found your best friend floating in a vat down at the sewage plant. It never made the papers, some things just can't, and the very last thing he saw was a back break with his name, and the vapors in those taillights, they made Viper's tongue seem tame. I'm just another dead volcano looking for a place to explode. Your buddy was another dead animal twitching in the road. It's Loathsome Things, a horror movie podcast.
Whoa. Nice.
Yeah, those were the poetic stylings of the something or other band called the Swimming Pool Cues.
Oh, is that what they were called? I was wondering about that. I guess they're an actual band.
They were an actual band with an actual album, and they actually were in this movie, I guess.
Wasn't there? Yeah. And then there was a real band in, Blood Diner as well, remember?
That's right.
The Elvis-y looking guy.
A way more high-energy band in Blood Diner.
Yes.
Those guys rocked.
They were amazing.
This band kind of jiggled.
A little frightening.
Yeah. Thunderbolts and lightning.
Whoa.
So, these voices you're hearing are Josh's and John's. We do this podcast. What are we podcasting about today, John?
Today, we are basically celebrating our, I guess it would be second anniversary, right? Is it like third year in operation kicking in?
Let's see. This is, so when we did Basket Case 2, that was 1 year. When we did Basket Case 3, that was 2 years.
I guess it is.
So this is the completion of our third year of casting pods.
Wow. That's crazy.
I know.
Well, I mean, we got probably one listener per year.
Oh man, yeah. We get little bursts where a few new people discover us, and then it just slowly tapers off as people realize, wow, I don't think I could listen to that anymore.
It's because the only person who ever listens to our show is Kelly. Who listens to you guys?
I can't believe people respect what you have to say about movies. I'm still mad about Netflix.
I'm the Gorton's fisherman.
Oh. It's pronounced Gloucester.
Inside jokes are the best.
It's really good that his voice has just now drifted into this Gilbert Gottfried area now.
It's completely ridiculous.
Yeah. Got a lot? It's fine.
Oh my god. What you got?
So yeah, we're doing Frank Henenlotter's Brain Damage, his second film from 1988. It was Frank's way of celebrating and exploring his own journey of kicking the cocaine habit. 'Cause, the 80s were almost over and it's time to stop doing that.
Yeah, this is a deeply personal, heartfelt film from Frank Henenlotter. A little bit of a departure from Basket Case.
Only a little.
Just a wee. But I love that it was inspired by not only his kicking of the cocaine habit, but also by Faust.
Yeah. And in true Frank Henenlotter fashion, he does gross monster dead lady sex stuff that gets the film crew to be like, hey Frank, we're not gonna do this, we're leaving, you are gonna have to record this on your own. And now I'm starting to think, maybe the reason Frank doesn't make movies anymore is because it's hard to get people to work with him.
Is that the guy that had that young lady go down on a worm dick? Yeah, I'm not doing that movie.
Yeah, I don't think we need to get that on our IMDb.
Good thing Gabe DeBartolo was on board, because nothing can scare him away.
Nothing scares Gabe or Beverly Bonner. Beverly Bonner's like, I don't care. I've seen him do, well, maybe not worse, but...
Yeah, she's aboard. She's aboard all the time, as long as she's still alive, because, she's dead now. And and Frank, what's his name? Kevin Henenlotter is also on board here for a little cameo.
Yes, but not his hair. His hair was no.
As
not in it to win it.
As the IMDb trivia said, he wore a wig so bad the crew referred to it as Eddie Van Halen's hair.
That was a terrible scene also. Like, I hated everything about that scene except for Kevin Van Henenlotter's presence.
His hair is so amazing. Like, they couldn't even find a curly-haired wig. They just got the longest hair wig they could find that was dark or something. I don't know. It's like somebody had a wig in their car or something.
Yeah, it's like the only wig that they had around that wasn't like the Farrah Fawcett or something. Like,
it's just like,
it's nothing like his hair. And we're like, oh, look, that's him. But what's wrong with him?
Why is his hair like that? Like the whole idea was, Kevin's hair is really short, but Dwayne Bradley's hair is long, so let's just give him long hair, as if that looks anything more like his character's hair than the wig they gave him. It's amazing.
Yeah. Wild choices by Frank in this one. But yeah, it's a whole thing. Second film, he made others after this. We've reviewed half of them now.
Yeah.
But this was somehow his second. I guess he just didn't make a movie for like 7 years in between. I can't imagine why.
Yeah, I guess he was busy snorting coke.
Yeah, just doing a bunch of coke and talking about movies that he thought about making.
I'll be right there to make that movie with you guys as soon as I do this kilo.
This movie stars Rick Hurst as Brian. This was Rick's big breakout role. He would go on to be in 100 episodes of Guiding Light, 106 episodes of Days of Our Lives, 242 episodes of The Bold and the Beautiful, and 621 episodes of General Hospital, all in a single year. No, just kidding. But not by much.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
God, yeah, it's weird that they would have a guy go from like one soap to the other. Like, I guess is it that hard to find actors in Hollywood?
I mean, because it's an everyday thing, right? Like, this is when they were still filming soap operas, like, every day you're on the set, and you're just, like, cranking them out like that. So it's gotta require a special level of commitment and like, a certain skill set. And, like, anytime we've come across one of these soap opera actors, they're all like that, where they get traded around back and forth because,
that's true.
like, if he was able to do 100 episodes of Guiding Light, then The Bold and Beautiful's like, hey, get over here, we need a guy.
I remember when I was growing up and hearing about soaps, and I didn't know anybody who watched them. My mom didn't, and then when I was around like 17 or 18, and all I did was basically smoke weed and not work.
Yeah.
I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to try and watch a soap opera and see what it's all about. So I started watching The Young and the Restless, and I actually was like into it for a while.
Nice.
Like, I knew all the characters, and like, oh my God, these two met because he raped her, and now they're in love. Jesus. And like, it was just,
oh no,
that show was so ridiculous. It was kind of entertaining, and then it just wasn't. So I stopped.
Yeah.
But yeah, good times. Yeah. Rick Hurst.
Yeah. and at this point, he was still going by Rick Herbst.
Herbst. Yeah, I like that. Herbst.
Yeah, it's like, well, no, that doesn't roll off the tongue. Let's do a rebrand of me.
The only character that really like amounted to almost anything was Gordon MacDonald, who plays his brother Mike, who was He was in the Thin Red Line, which I don't even know if he was probably like dead guy number 300 or whatever.
Yeah.
But the only reason that he's even famous at all is because he's married to Holly Hunter.
Oh, nice.
That's it. Everyone else, it's like, except for the voice of Aylmer, hasn't really done shit, actually.
Yeah.
Pretty weird.
Yeah, who was... Elmer was like some sort of horror movie or horror host guy did the voice of Elmer.
Yeah, some guy named John Zachary, who I guess was like a creature feature, like, and oh no, this week, one of those guys.
Ah, cool.
Which is actually kind of cool, but yeah, he and the voice is actually pretty hilarious, I have to admit. As soon as he starts talking, I was just like, oh yeah, this is going to be good.
Yeah.
He's just so snide sounding and like he's not as like greasy sounding as I thought it would be. He's more like, like this nice old man voice. It was really weird. It was perfect.
Well, hey there, kiddo.
Yeah.
Why don't you hook me up to your neck so you can get a fix?
It was such a gentle voice. It was amazing.
Yeah. Let's go eat some hookers.
That's right. You'll never have to worry again.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Yes. This was one I hadn't seen, so I'd heard about it, and I'd heard the guys on the Forever Midnight podcast talk about it, and they love it. And I think they've done they do all kinds of like enamel pins, and those guys are really good at promoting themselves. They do merch. They make really cool T-shirts, really cool enamel pins. They have all kinds of crazy shit. They sell the pins? Oh yeah, those are like that's a whole thing in the collector world.
Okay.
Yeah.
Neat.
Like, so like all three of the guys on that show are artists, visual artists, and so one of them will like draw, like they'll draw an Aylmer pin, and so you can walk around with Aylmer pinned to your shirt or whatever. But
nice.
Those guys also made the Necronomicondom.
Oh no!
a little Necronomicon book, and you open it up, and there's a condom inside.
Oh no! It's got to be made out of human skin.
It's amazing. It's like, wow, that's a really smart idea.
Yeah, I would buy.
They're the ones that had the Frack Jickelson shirt.
Frack Jickelson.
With what's his name? The director that kind of looks like Jack Nicholson?
Yeah, the dad guy from Jugface.
Yes, that's right. Papa Jugface.
Fantastic.
But yeah, they had talked about the show, and of course they loved it, and they thought it was, it sounded hilarious, and they're funny, so I was like, okay, I gotta watch this movie sometime. And I mean, I've seen a lot of really pretty ridiculous stuff because of those guys, like Society, which we're gonna do Society one day. I love that movie.
Yeah, we've got to.
It's so good. I still haven't seen Castle Freak. They talk about that one a lot.
Oh, nice.
And it looks frightening.
Isn't that a Full Moon Entertainment one?
It might be. It's like really, just from their description, it's god fucking awful, but they love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. That every time I see it, I think, oh, that's got to be a Charles Band shindig.
Yeah, and I tend to stay away from that stuff. But this particular, and I don't think they're big fans of Full Moon either. But I think they do like this one. So, anyways, whatever.
Ah,
yeah.
Nice. Well,
yeah.
If we're wrong, someone listening out there is like, no, that's not it.
I haven't listened to those guys in a long time. I need to pick their show back up.
I really suck at listening to other movie podcasts.
I don't at all. I absolutely no. I barely listen to podcasts anymore unless it's on some subject that I'm reading about.
Yeah, yeah.
I'd be like, oh wow, they've got a Cuban history podcast. Perfect.
There are podcasts out there that they'll read the books that I can't read and tell me about it. So like there's one where they're just reading the Dune books, and I've never been able to successfully read Dune, but I can listen to these guys talk about reading Dune, and that's better because I really, really don't feel like reading an entire big thick book about a hero named Paul.
I think I've read the first third of Dune like 5 times, and
yeah,
I like it fine. It's a cool book. I just never finish it for whatever reason. So I'll probably just listen to the audiobook because then I know I'll finish it because I'll be at work.
I have the audiobook, I have the print book, I have the ebook, and I just don't. I never get through. I'm just like, oh God, why? Why is it this way?
I know the story so well because I've seen both of the movies, and
Yeah.
I know all the lore about it. So it's like I'll get to a part like the whole bit where he sticks his hand in the thing, the dick in the box part, and I know, like, it's like, oh, okay, this is the actual part because I already know all of this.
Yeah. Weezach Setterrock or whatever it is.
Yeah, all the weird names. I know.
Oh, fantastic. All right, John, do you want to kick us off with a summarization of this movie in part?
I do. So the movie opens, we get a cool brain damage title card, very 80s looking, bright and colorful. And then we cut to the credit sequence, which is a collection of shots of African masks and heavily B-noted anatomical drawings, like posters on the wall, whatever, while really bad synth music plays. So when the movie proper opens, we see this guy who looks to be like some sort of professor dude, old guy. He comes home to his apartment, and his lady is there. She meets him. She's super excited because he has managed to find the brains that they were looking for. She opens the package and she says she's very excited because she's been waiting for these brains for, quote, him. So she puts one of the brains on a plate with a little sprig of parsley and goes into the bathroom where she finds the bathtub full of water and nothing else and starts screaming, "He's gone!" Ah! See, that lady is really good at playing hysterical. I hate her.
Yeah, I hate it. She keeps screaming, "Oh my God, stop it!"
She's really painful to have on screen. We cut to the main character, Brian. It's his apartment, his bedroom. It's blue in his bedroom always for some reason. His phone is ringing, and finally it wakes him up. It's his lady friend, Barbara. Now we're doing the old cut back and forth shuffle that I can't stand, but a lot of directors like to do this. So we're back to the old pair. They're frantically just demolishing their apartment looking for Aylmer, as they say. Just thrashing the place. It's like, you don't have to throw things to move it out of the way. She's completely losing her fucking mind, just screaming. It's really, really torturous. Back to Brian, where his roommate, who turns out to be his brother Mike, lets Barbara in. She's come to the door, and she goes into his room to check on him. His lip is split, and he's looking, as she says, awful. He feels like shit. She's like, we gotta go. It's time to go. They're gonna go to a concert, but he tells her that he can't go because he feels like crap, and that she should go with his what's the word I would be looking for? Lustful?
Hot brother.
Hot, immoral. I don't know what the word would be, but his brother's a douchebag. But anyway, so he says, yeah, you should go with my brother Mike, and I'm going back to sleep. Back to the old couple, who are now banging on the door of one of their neighbors. Oh, it's Beverly Bonner, the perennial Henenlotter fave. Okay. They demand to see her bathtub, and she's just like, what the fuck are you talking about? And then the old lady just barges in, runs into the bathroom, and checks her dirty bathtub, but there's no water there, and it's gross, and then they leave. It's so gross. And they go bang on the door across the hall, and that's the Beverly Bonner cameo, I guess you'd call it. Barbara ends up going with Mike, and Mike lays back down to get some more sleep, rest, whatever, hopefully, because he's going to be fine later. They walk on their way out. They walk past the old people's place, and then we cut to seeing them laying on the ground in their apartment, surrounded by all their stuff, convulsing and foaming at the mouth. Pretty amazing overhead shot. Back to Brian, who is very restless. He can't sleep after all, and he wakes up and he discovers that there's blood, like reaches back behind his head, and he comes back, his hand's got blood, and he looks, and there's blood all over the pillow, the bed. It's all over the back of his neck. It's bloody. He stumbles around, and he starts kind of like hallucinating, like the lights flashing and stuff, and he's he's just crawling around like a twat. He crawls back into his bed, and now he appears to be tripping balls. His light turns on overhead, super, super bright. He's laying on his back looking up at the ceiling. We see this blue liquid start like flooding into the room, kind of like over his dirty socks and phone and stuff. And the light on the ceiling is like basically turning into an eyeball. He sees it as an eyeball. And then we finally
really fucking cool.
It's cool. We see him Brian is now laying on his bed with his arm hanging over the edge, and his bed is surrounded by a very, very bad overlaid graphic special effect of blue water. It's like a double exposure or whatever. It looks so bad. Yeah. But whatever, it gets the point across. He's completely tripping balls. Then we see him, and the water overtakes him, or the fluid or whatever, and his vision gets more and more distorted. And then we just cut to him. He seems to be feeling a bit better. The water's gone. There's a bunch of crusty blood on the back of his neck. He's in the bathroom. He sees that the tub now is full of water, and he's like, I know you're here, whoever you are. I know you're here because I didn't fill the tub, or what. It's so stupid. And then we hear his stomach gurgle, which apparently was actually his stomach gurgling. They recorded it because he would drink coffee on an empty stomach, and his stomach would react. It's really gross. You start seeing that under his shirt. Something's under his shirt moving around. And oh my gosh, a giant dick worm appears over his shoulder. It's like dark and lumpy and very gross looking. It pops up over his shoulder. It's very turd-like, very turd penis-like. Pops up and goes, hi. Then we see later he's back in his room, I believe, and he's got the dick worm sticking out of a bucket of blue water. Nice. And the worm is telling him that all of his worries are over and no more pain. And all he has to do is put the dick worm on his neck and everything's going to be fine. And we hear more stomach gurgling. Aylmer, because this is, of course, Aylmer, opens his toothy mouth, which is amazing.
Yeah.
All these little teeth and things sticking out that look...
little hooks.
Yeah, like it looks completely stupid, but also really gross at the same time. I don't know how they managed that. It was really cool. And this goofy looking little spike thing with like blue wheeze dripping off of it comes out, pierces Brian in his neck hole that was already there. And we see it go into his brain, and his well-lit brain, and drop little drops of blue juice into Brian's brain, or onto it. Aylmer is obviously enjoying it, and Brian is what I described as orgasmocinating. He's like moaning and his eyes are rolled back, but he's also like, seeing having visual and sound distortions and stuff. Anyway, Mike and Barbara return from the concert. And by the way, Brian has some pretty awesome posters on his wall. He's got like a Cramps poster and a Slayer Raining Blood poster, and he's got a Suicide poster. It's pretty amazing. But anyway, so Mike and Barbara return, and she decides that she's going to try and sneak up on Brian. So she goes into his room to sneak up on him, but he's gone. He's fled. His bed's made, but he made his bed. That was nice. We find Brian running the streets like a maniac, just like whooping up and like just like out of his mind, tripping balls. He jumps a fence and gets into like a car junkyard, and he's like dance jumping around the place, going woo woo over and over again. And he sees like this. There's like not orange, but like really, really bright colored lights that are glowing off the tops of the cars and stuff. It's really stupid, but it looks funny. He's completely losing his mind, and in the process, he gets the attention of a very gun-happy security guard who grabs his weapon and heads out, because he's guarding all those shitty cars. He goes out and he basically tracks him down, and he tries to cuff Brian, and instead ends up getting Aylmer right through his forehead. And Brian just kind of lays back watching, and he's like watching it, but it's in tripo vision for him. And then you hear him go, "Wow." It's pretty amazing. We get this like more of this stop motion Aylmer basically eating the dude's brain. It's fantastic. Brian is hooked up. He wants more juice, and Aylmer's like, "Oh, just a little." So he gives him a little more juice. Back home, we see Mike, and he's at the apartment. He lets Barbara in. She's come in to check on things. She says that whenever she talks to Brian, he's just like giggly and weird. And Mike says, he's acting very strange. He never leaves the tub or his room, and that he keeps buckets of water in his room. They're both worried for him. Aylmer pops up in the bath because Brian's in the bathtub. It's all sudsy, and Aylmer pops up between his legs. And Brian is like, "Woohoo! Woohoo! Woohoo!" Like a complete lunatic. It's very strange.
Yeah. Just whooping and splashing in the bathtub while they're listening on the other side.
Yeah.
Weird stuff. He ends up taking Barbara to a very fancy looking restaurant where they each order a plate of spaghetti and meatballs. He tells her about his synesthesia and about how important it is, and then the meatballs on his plate of spaghetti start turning into brains and pulsating, so he gets up and ditches her to, instead of being there with her, goes to a super low-energy punk concert where everyone is apparently wearing one ring of janitor keys and jangling around. While there, he meets what I like to call a real nice lady who is super into how high he is, and takes him out back for a blowy. But then it turns out that his enormous trouser trombone is actually our blue friend Aylmer, who she is then forced to fillet to death as he eats her brains out through the inside of her mouth and is still sticking out of his crotch. This is the scene that the filming crew walked out on, and I'm sure that Frank thought it was hilarious. I could see how it could be hilarious, but it's also pretty upsetting.
It's pretty rough, yeah. He's forcibly holding her, at his crotch while Aylmer is basically taking the place of a giant phallus, penetrating her mouth and, of course, going into her brain.
Yeah. And then that's done. He pulls back into the pants with a big flopping flap of brain stuff splattering all over the place, which was pretty good.
Yeah.
And then at this point, now Brian is stumbling around in a back alley so that he can take off his bloody underwear. And in this back alley, he meets Morris, who is still alive, the old man from the beginning of the movie, but now significantly paler, as if some sort of black person, because I don't know if you've seen this movie, but black people are covered in a sheen of death powder for some reason.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Morris explains Aylmer, including a long, gag about his joke. No, not Elmer, it's Aylmer. And then he spells it and talks about the etymology. And then he talks about Aylmer's history and how it goes all the way back to Byzantium. And he wants Aylmer back. And that situation is now over. Brian decides to get some space to himself. And he leaves his brother's apartment, or the apartment where he lives with his brother, and gets the shittiest little apartment possible in a hotel room. It's a closet with a sink in it, and he and Elmer hunker down to detox. Elmer admits to all of the killing that they've been doing, then starts singing as Brian is huddled on the floor and shaking and pulling chunks of his own brains out of his ear until his ear just pops right off, and finally Brian gives in to the fiending, and Elmer says, "Well, I'll help you, but you'll have to feed me first."
His little song is so ridiculous. I love it.
Yeah.
I also love when he pops up in the room and he's like, "Oh, nice place." It's like the most disgusting place ever. He has a sink in his room, but as it turns out, we're going to find out later that the bathrooms are communal. Brian starts not banging, but like trying all the knobs to the other doors because he basically has given in. He's, he needs to get that juice. So
Yeah.
He's trying all the knobs, nothing's working, and then we get this weird scene where this gigantic biker guy with a beard, bald guy with a beard and tattoos and stuff, and a very strange sort of Schwarzenegger accent, and then his cohort, like his pal, is like some guy that's completely out of his mind, like just wasted, and the dude is just talking a bunch of nonsense that has nothing to do with anything, and then they go into that guy's apartment, and that's the end of those two. It's like,
so I think that's part of Frank's experience of drug fiending. That's a horrible biker man who's about to have sex with that little strung out guy in exchange for drugs.
Yeah, it's that biker character is terrifying. I don't know.
Yeah,
he's like an ape man. But anyways,
he's excited to watch the world explode in a nuclear holocaust.
Oh, that's right.
That's his thing. Yeah, he's like, yeah, I'm gonna watch us explode with me in it. Yeah,
right. I'm going to watch it explode. I'm so happy to see that.
Yeah.
Such a weird accent. Brian hears some splashing water behind him or around the corner, whatever, and walks in through a swinging door like in a cowboy bar, and walks into a communal shower and finds a bodybuilder showering, with his back to Brian. Of course, we get the second naked male ass for the movie.
Yep.
Brian is completely pallid as well. He's been powdered. He's very tensely looking at the guy. It's very awkward. Apparently, I don't know. Like, I've read that in the uncut version they have sex or something like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but it wasn't even implied in the version that I saw. And they showed the filleting scene, so I mean, you might as well go for the gay sex. Who fucking cares? But no, they didn't do that because gay sex is terrible and gay people are awful.
Yeah.
So anyways, whatever. So the guy's showering, and then Brian is just kind of standing there like, huh? And the guy's like, is there a problem? He's like, no.
Just staring at your giant naked body.
Yes, just looking at your weird lumpy body. And then the guy finishes up and he says, all yours. And he leaves. And then, but before that, Aylmer crawls out from under his towel and like climbs or slimes or whatever down Brian's leg and starts going across the floor towards the guy. But then the guy leaves, so that amounts to nothing. Great.
Yeah.
That whole scene was weird. So I guess the whole point of that scene was that he has sex with a guy and maybe Aylmer kills him or whatever. But we don't see that. They took that out. So it's just
there was a lot of trouble with this movie. Like they cut a bunch out of it, but then they cut too much out and it was too short.
Oh,
so then later they had to add more stuff back in to make it feature length. And so I think that's part of this movie's trouble.
That's right. So Brian's freaking out because he can't find Aylmer, and Aylmer's gone off in search of Brain. Aylmer comes across a poor young black gentleman who is dropping a dooker in a stall, and comes into the stall and attacks him and is eating his brain through his forehead. We see a blood sprinkler spouting like in spirals over the top of the stall, like somebody's twirling a hose or something.
Yeah. You can tell that there's just some guy in there going like this.
It's so funny. There's blood everywhere. It's great. Brian completely panics. It's fantastic. The pooper dies, and his brain falls. We see his brain fall down like on a floor level shot where there's just blood everywhere. The brain just goes blip right into the pool of blood. Back home, Brian goes straight to bed because he's pooped. Mike and Barbara come back to the apartment, and Barbara is still stressing about Brian. And by the way, I can't stand Barbara.
Yeah.
Mike doesn't just stand there, by the way. He busts a move. I'm an idiot. I could totally see it coming. Like the first time, pretty much right when Brian says, you should go to the concert with Mike, I was like, oh yeah, Mike's gonna yeah, he's gonna bust a move. And he
so
did.
Good.
He did. So they immediately start like making out, and she's making these awful moaning sounds. It's really awful. It wakes Brian up, and he's laying in bed listening to them as they are playing naked roll hug and then slow fucking in the most dispassionate, unerotic way possible. Yeah. And she's making very uncomfortable, strange moan sounds. It was weird. Yeah, I don't know. Elmer says, "You, Brian," and
pops up in his bed.
Pops up in his bed. "You, Brian," and stick the old needle hook thing into his neck so that Brian can get juiced. And now Brian is completely high as fuck again. The ceiling turns into the cosmos, basically. And then Brian hallucinates a threesome. It's like him and Mike and Barbara standing naked with an all-black background, just the three of them. And then it's Brian and her, and they drop onto a bed, and he's on top of her, and he's got these like big blue tentacle suckers all over his chest, which is very strange. And then they start having their gross, weird, imaginary sex. After the weird, dull fuckathon, Brian confronts Mike and Barbara and tells them, we think that he's like all upset, but actually he's just worried about their safety, and he wants them to leave because he gets hungry and people get killed. And he needs brains, and Brian needs the juice.
Yeah.
So, of course, they're like, okay, dude. And then he takes off, and Barbara, who is clearly very intelligent, follows him, super worried, follows him down into the grossest looking subway tunnel I've ever seen. It's just basically it's a New York subway tunnel, but it is disgusting.
Yeah.
He's standing behind a pillar doing weird shit, and she's standing behind another pillar watching him. You don't even know what it is. You just see his head cocked back with like this blissful look, so I guess he's just stripping, whatever.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on, because you'd think him leaning his head all the way back would be the opposite of Aylmer, like, giving him the juice, because I don't know what's up with all that, but...
Just blissful, I guess. Just basking in the juice, I guess.
I do like their his trippy like sex dream. Like that's a lot of good nonsense.
Yeah, that's true. The trippy sex dream is pretty well done, actually. It's really funny.
Yeah. Now they're on the subway, and there's this horrible special effect where Aylmer pops out of Brian's mouth, and it's like the worst special effects in the Ghostbusters. It's like that level. And he keeps doing it, and it's so she's just talking at him incessantly, like, about how she understands and she cares. She's just saying a string of words, and every time she turns away from him, he turns towards her, and Aylmer, like, goes blah, 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 right out of his mouth, and then pops back in, and it looks like shit.
Yeah, it looks really bad.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense, because up until this point, Elmer's never popped out of his mouth, so it's just definitely not Frank relapsing, right?
Yeah. Like, what is that? Why is this happening? Why did they hire the worst artist in the world to draw directly on the film? That's what it looks like. It's terrible.
Yeah, it looks bad. At around this point, Dwayne shows up on the subway, sits directly across from Brian, and he's holding his basket. And then they just he's got that hair, and it's just the worst. It looks like a Muppet's crotch died on top of his head. And they just make super eye contact.
Yeah.
And it's real like, oh, cool. Is a cool thing about to happen? Wouldn't it be cool if a cool thing happened? I hope a cool thing happens. And then Dwayne gets nervous and leaves.
Yeah, Frank Henenlotter doesn't really get how to do Easter eggs. Like, you're supposed to have him in the background, maybe. Like, oh, wait a minute. Go back. Was that Dwayne sitting on the bench back there with the basket? But instead, it's like Dwayne in your face, sitting directly across, just they're staring at each other, and then nothing comes of it. It's like, okay, thanks, Frank.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't get to see Belial. Dwayne didn't get to see Aylmer.
Mm-mm.
They just, okay.
Just thought it would be cool. Wouldn't it be cool if we tied this into Basket Case and had a scene where Dwayne sits across from Brian for like 9 minutes and they just look at each other and no one mentions his wig or whatever? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's a great idea, Frank. Let's do that.
Yeah. Yeah, let's do that. Whoa. And so all this time, Barbara is continuously not shutting up. It's just a string of horribleness. And so at this point, Brian kisses her, which then permits Aylmer access to eat her in the throat. While they are kissing, there are other people on the subway who are disentertained by the kissing.
That lady is great.
Yeah, she's great. We get a lot of close-up of her not being approving of what's happening, and then now Barbara's dead. And she has blood coming out of her face, and Brian gets up and lets her body slump over, lifeless, on the subway seat, and gets off the subway. Meanwhile, the lady sitting across from them that was disinterested does not care about her being kissed to death. That's fine. And it's over with. And now we're back to the scene where Brian ditched his blood underwear and his bloody tighties, and Morris and Martha are there, and they mug him in order to get Aylmer back. And then Aylmer slowly and boringly eats their brains out. Like the first time that Aylmer latched himself onto someone's forehead and ate their brains out, it was like, oh, that's cool. We're coming up on at least times 3 and 4 here, and it's like, oh, okay, we don't, it's fine.
Yeah, it's not that great of an effect.
Yeah, it was like, oh, neat, that's what he does. He goes through the thickest part of the skull bone. Nice. So he does that, and then there's also a gun. There's like a Walther or whatever, like a little World War II pistol on the ground.
A P-38.
Oh, is it it's a P-38?
Yeah, I don't know why I had a die-cast version of that when I was a kid. My dad got it somewhere. I don't know. And so whenever we would play war, I always thought I was super cool because I had this heavy metal P-38. That's the only reason I know what that gun is.
Nice. I had one. It was orange and it squirted water until the trigger broke off.
I always confuse it with the Luger. Even when we were watching this, I was like, "Oh, a Luger? That's weird." Wait, I don't even like guns, and I'm like, "Oh, it's a P-38."
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You pull on the little part back here. It was a weird gun design.
It is weird.
Kind of looks like it dispenses, I don't know, toothpaste or something.
Fresh and white.
So Elmer kills Morris and Martha. They're both dead, and now he goes to re-up Brian on his juice, and as he's squeezing some blue juice into Brian's brain, all of a sudden, Morris isn't dead, and he, even though he's had a good chunk of his brain eaten out, he gets up, attacks Aylmer while Aylmer is juicing Brian, and squeezes Aylmer and yoinks him off, and just squeezes Aylmer to death, Aylmer falls to the ground and starts doing flopping. Morris falls to the ground and expires, and now inside of Brian's hyper-juiced brain, everything's going wild. Blue stuff is happening, little zips are going everywhere because the blue stuff is also electrically powered or something.
Right.
And then we get this like little bubbly, like a bubble starts forming on Brian's forehead, so he runs all the way home and locks himself in his room, and his brother is upset, and then the police are there, and he uses the P-38 to shoot himself in the bubble that is forming a sub-bubble on top of itself on his forehead. He shoots it, and then when the cops bust in, there's a crack, like his head is a egg. There's a crack in the top of his head, and light and lightning is just pouring out of it and illuminating everything around him. End of movie.
Yeah, it's like, okay, wow.
Yeah. We came back around, because that was the thing. The first time he did the thing with Aylmer, there was the light, and he was like,
yeah.
Oh, yes, do what the light says, Brian. But we didn't really get anything. This is definitely someone that is struggling with a drug addiction, the movie.
Yeah, don't think that he's over his addiction yet.
Yeah. Still an addict, but he's trying. And you know what, Frank? Congratulations. I'm glad you kicked the habit, and I'm glad that you're doing better now.
Kudos to you, Frank, for hanging in there.
Cujo's to you.
Whoa.
Yeah. The book Cujo does appear in this film, and
yes.
it is famously the one that Stephen King does not remember writing.
That's right. He was, yes, in the throes of his own cocaine addiction and alcoholism, I guess.
Yeah. Back whenever the scary thing was a dog, and the place that you hide from a dog is inside a safe car.
Yes, that's right. I love that movie. That's just a whole lot of D. Wallace.
Yes. So, that was Brain Damage,
yes.
the Frank Henenlotter feature.
Very nice. Nicely done, Frank. Way to go with the sophomore effort, sir.
Yeah. All killer.
Also all filler.
Mostly filler.
I really enjoy this movie, but it's a piece of shit.
It is such a piece of shit. But there are like parts of it that are so entertaining.
Yeah.
Like I do like Elmer. He's on the screen too much.
Yeah.
At times. At other times, it's like, why are we even watching this movie if he's not in it? So it's a really hard balance. I could definitely see struggling to edit this movie.
I love that it's basically just a remake of Basket Case.
Yeah. Yep.
Like he didn't know where to go, so he just made another version of Basket Case. Fuck it.
Yep. He's like, hey, you know what people really liked? Basket Case.
People were really into Parasites.
Yeah. What if I made another movie after this? Basket Case 2. Let's go.
And now we're back on track. Oh, Frank.
So I gave this movie a 2.7 out of 5 Loathsome Things. It's good. It's a solid watch. There's fun to be had. There's a little bit of upsettingness in there, but it's Frank Henenlotter. What are you gonna do? But it's not very good. It's just like there are those points of bliss, but you're kind of slogging through nothing between those points of bliss, and there's a lot of the story that just does not matter.
That's true. I mean, that it's a pretty weak effort overall. Fortunately for me, I found it, like I said, I thought it was really entertaining. I mean, I like the aesthetic of it. It's silly. Like the silliness works for me, whereas like it doesn't. Like for instance, Basket Case 3, it's just a goddamn train wreck. He has just enough money to be able to make it, disgusting, but not enough money to make a Basket Case 3, basically. I rated it high. I also ditched my arbitrary rating system because it's bullshit, and I'm just I'm just winging it. So I gave it a 3.8. I really enjoyed it.
Nice.
I think it fits very well in the Loathsome Things milieu.
Oh, nice.
I think it's very much a Loathsome Things type movie. But I mean, having said that, we also cover some pretty serious shit too. But yeah, 3.8. Yeah. I enjoyed it. Not a great film. If you're uncomfortable with women being forcibly forced to fillet a dick worm, maybe skip this one.
Yeah, that was. I was surprised by how not just upsetting it was, but how it. What made it upsetting was how much focus there was placed on it. Like you could just hear Frank Henenlotter laughing and laughing and laughing as the scene went on and on and on.
I think he had a collection of shots in his head, and that's what this movie was a collection of little set pieces that, he couldn't really make a set, so he just had pieces. He just had these little ideas, and one of them wouldn't it be hilarious if this happened? And I guess he got his bang for his buck because he showed it way too much. It was, it's already exploitative. I mean, but that's the point. It's a schlock film, but there's no reason for it to go on. And I mean, it was a really long scene considering what it was. It was just kind of like, okay. What? And there's no climax to it. He just eats her brain and she dies. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. It's the punniest movie.
Yeah, exactly. It's the good one, uncle of movies.
I get the impression that Frank Henenlotter is obviously, likes to be silly, but I also get the impression that Frank has a very antiquated view of women because the women in his movies are just, other than Beverly Bonner, really, they're all just terrible. And and then he makes Frankenhooker.
Come back in 1 year for Frankenhooker.
She's not terrible though. She's fucking awesome. I love Frankenhooker. But yeah. I mean, I'm definitely a fan of Frank Henenlotter. I'm not.
Oh yeah.
I'm not like, there's people out there who are, there's a lot of horror fans that are just. It's just they need to get a fucking life. It's like, God damn, dude, you just live this shit, don't you? And that's fine, and he definitely falls into like the cult, I mean, this movie's ridiculous. It's completely ridiculous. It's original in its own way just because it's so goofy. And people love that kind of shit. And I guess I do too, because I gave it a 3.8.
Nice. Well, that puts it at a 6.5 out of 10 Loathsome Things. That's like a D plus,
Yeah, it's respectable, I guess. He passed.
Yeah.
D's get degrees.
Yeah, you as long as this wasn't a class that was part of your major, if this was an elective, then you're still graduating.
Yeah, that's right. If this is a core curriculum class, you're probably going to need to do a little better.
Yeah, that feels about right for this movie.
A throwaway credit. I got 3 credits
Intro to
for brain
acting.
damage.
Yeah. I wanted to talk to you about the ratings, John. I'm glad that you mentioned ditching your rubric because I've gotten to the point where, like, I hate rating these movies now. I'm, like, looking at things, like, trying to compare it to other things.
Yeah.
What if we, like, ditched the out of 10 altogether?
Yeah, we could certainly do that.
Like, I was thinking, like, we could even, like Ebert and Roper and do, like, each of us get 2 thumbs or something like that. I don't know. We can explore and experiment, but, like, I'm sick of 10.
We could do like a Loathsome Things recommends type deal. Not literally say that because that's stupid, but you know, like when we get to that part, just be like, so what do you think? Do we recommend this movie, or is this a movie that our fans would like, or whatever? You know?
Yeah. Yeah, instead of giving it, like, a numerical value, just give it, like, qualifiers. Like,
Because having to do math, you know, right on the fly like that is just not working.
In our last episode, we were just like, how many is that?
It was so great because we were good, and then we took this weird turn into idiot land where it was like 4.1431. I don't know. It was amazing.
Yeah. Fuck math. Math is terrible. Never do it.
Yeah. For the love of God, don't math.
Yeah. I did math terrible on this movie because I was responsible for setting us timestamps of, all right, now you summarize up to this point, and then I got our first 2 out of the 4 were 53 minutes of the movie, and I was like, oh no, I've done something terribly wrong.
I was like, wait a minute, why is this segment here like 5 minutes long?
I don't know. I did a bad job.
It was kind of awesome.
Oh, so that's we'll figure out. We'll just say whatever we feel like out of Loathsome Things next time. So look forward to us figuring that out, you sweet, sweet listener.
We're not good with formality, so it's much more in line with our way of doing things.
Hell yeah, ditch formality. We've just been doing that this whole time, and it's pointless.
But then we force ourselves into these little corners where it's like, okay, now you must do math. Loathsome Things, horror movie and bad math podcast.
Yes, yeah. Fantastic. Well, John, what else have you been up to watching, reading, thinking about, doing?
I didn't mention it last time, I forgot about it, but I had listened to... I've never put much attention into Stephen King books. The first book of his I think that I ever read was... oh, God, I can't remember the name of it. But anyways, I'll get back
Fantastic story.
So far, right on the money. Oh, my God. The one about the evil nurse who captures the writer.
Oh, yeah, Christine.
No. The movie with James Caan where she calls him a little doody.
Oh, yeah. You're talking about Maximum Overdrive.
Yeah, that's it. That's the one. Anyways, I was in Michigan on vacation. They had a shelf of books over the fireplace, and they were all like,
nice.
You know, like romance novels or whatever, like all this shit that I was just like, I'm not reading that. But I really...
Christine Feehan.
Yeah, exactly. But Debbie Maycomer. But
Harlequin classics, let's go!
I was like desperate to read something, and so I found that book and Misery, and
there it is,
and it was good. It's actually a really good book. I really enjoyed it. And then the next book of his that I read, well, I tried to read The Stand, and I was like, no, we're not doing that. And then then I read The Shining about 3/4 of the way through and fucking hated it.
Oh no, really?
I hate The Shining. Then I read Carrie and loved it, and then I read On Writing and loved it, and then I pretty much just gave up, you know, because he just was putting out like Oh, I think I'll put out a 9-volume, 800 pages each collection of books about some mythology involving turtles and cowboys. And I was just like, no, I'm not. That doesn't appeal to me at all.
Turtles?
Yeah, like, aren't turtles like the weird stand-in for God, like in It, in that whole dark whatever gunslinger universe or whatever?
Oh God, I have no idea.
I never read It for this exact same reason. I'm like, I don't need 900,000 pages to get that story across. But apparently, it is scared. The thing is scared of turtles because a turtle is some sort of positive force in the universe that negates the evil of the clown demon. It makes no fucking sense. So there's a scene in the movie, in the remake, or the later one, where the kids are in the water, and I think it's pre-gang fuck scene that's just really troubling. But they're all in the water swimming in their underwear, and there's a turtle that brushes one of them, and that's like a symbol of things are going to be okay or whatever. I'm just like, what? No. Get the fuck out of here with that. But one of my favorite horror movies is Salem's Lot, or shows or whatever. The Tobe Hooper version. So I finally listened to the book, Salem's Lot. Jerusalem's Lot is a short story, which is really good, but Salem's Lot is awesome. I really enjoyed that book. It was a lot of fun, and it kind of was like, wow, that opens a whole new door of stuff I can, get into. So I'm going to try some more of his stuff, and we'll see how that goes. But I watched, what did I watch? Any good horror stuff? Nothing really great. I don't know. How about you?
Well, I am planning on reading that first, whatever it is, The Gunslinger by Stephen King, because Dude and Shit is making the series out of it.
The Dune guy?
No, not Dune guy. Haunting of Bly Manor and
Flanagan?
Yeah, Flanagan.
Mike Flanagan.
He's gonna be doing a Gunslinger series, I think.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
I'm sure
I'm into that.
He'll probably, knowing Mike Flanagan, he'll probably make it really concise.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah. That concision dude.
Oh.
Speaking of Mike Flanagan and concision, I watched the newest season, and I haven't done this in a long time. I watched the newest season of American Horror Story.
Oh, wow.
It's called Delicate, and it's Rosemary's Baby themed, and has stars Emma Roberts and what's her name? Kim Kardashian.
Oh, God. Really?
Yeah. Kim Kardashian. She's a talent agent or something, a publicist. Emma Roberts is a movie starlet who wants to get preg balls, but is having a hard time, so she goes to a super fancy Hollywood eggplant place and is being haunted by witchy ladies with bird-like headdresses. And so we have snakes, and we have birds, and for some reason the show has a spider theme to it that never comes out of anywhere. It's terrible.
That's what I was waiting for. I watched the first season of that show and really didn't. It was very underwhelming. And then I tried to watch another one, and it was fucking horrible, and I gave up.
The second season of that show, it was a grand disappointment because it takes place in an insane asylum, and you have aliens abducting people, you have a guy who's the Antichrist, you have all of these ghost things, and all of it feels like it's leading up to something, and then it's just fucking over. And that's the American Horror Story promise to you, is by the time it's over, none of it will make sense, and you'll just feel disappointed.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you're gonna name a series American Horror Story, it sounds like it's gonna be something really cool. But instead, it's Ryan What's-His-Nuts that does all the real campy theatrical stuff, and it's campy and theatrical, which is fine. It's just not my thing, I guess. I don't know. Well, it's not my thing because it sucks. That's why it's not my thing. I don't care about. I mean, I don't have a problem with campy and theatrical. I love some campy and theatrical shit, but it's just a not good show. I don't get it. I don't know why it's so popular.
Well, so he's really good at like getting a hook. Like, oh, what's that?
Yeah.
Ooh, here's a cool thing. He's really good at that part about like building the suspense, but then he just sucks the balls out of the ending of everything. Like that's why it's impossible to watch one of it. Like, once you've seen 2 seasons of American Horror Story, there's no reason to watch another one, because you're like, ooh, what's that? Oh, wait, I shouldn't ever let myself care about that because it's never going to amount to any fucking thing ever.
It's weird because isn't he the guy that's behind those kind of like docudramas about different sensationalized true crime stories in America? Like he did one about that guy that killed Versace,
Dahmer,
and he did. He also did the Dahmer show, right?
Yeah,
which was very good. It was very well done.
Sexy Dahmer.
Yeah, Sexy Dahmer. And but that other series is really well done too. And but this American Horror Story is just right in the shitter with you. Which reminds me, though, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I watched the second season, which I've been waiting for a long time, of that show, Them. But I was only waiting for it after I saw the preview of the first episode. Like, I saw an unfinished version of it, an unfinished cut of it, because I used to be part of something. Amazon would let you preview early shit, and then you could get Amazon gift cards and whatever. But
hell yeah!
But then they would always fuck you on the gift card, and the show would be terrible. So it's like, wow, I just watched a terrible show for nothing. But early on, they would do some halfway decent stuff. So yeah, I got the first episode. I mean, this was like a year ago. I got the first episode of season 2, which, from what I can remember, was pretty much the way it is. They just released the whole season, and it's if you're not familiar with it, it's a black-themed horror anthology.
Nice.
The first season was about a black family that moves into, I think, a Los Angeles suburb in like the 50s, maybe. There was I forget the term for it, but there was a large, like, kind of exodus of black families moving to Los Angeles at that time, because there was, like, supposedly going to be lots of work and cheap housing, whatever. So they move into this neighborhood full of insanely racist people, and something supernatural is going on. It wasn't very good. I was hoping it would be good, but it just never really hit. And then I saw this first episode of season 2 and was like, what is this? This is amazing. And the season kicks ass. It was really good.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, like the final episode is directed by Ty West. And,
yes.
And he fucking nails it, man. I mean, that show is great. I really enjoyed it. It's really gross. It's got some silly shit in it, but it's definitely worth watching. It was a lot. It was really entertaining. So, anyways.
Nice.
Yeah.
Would you recommend I skip the first season and just go straight to the second?
The actress whose name there's no way, even if I could remember it, I couldn't pronounce it. So.
Well, then try, but use a funny accent.
Ole bule kanubi dubi.
Oh no. That is the sound of 3 people unsubscribing.
What the fuck is it? I think her name is something like Deborah Ayorinde or something like that. Whew, God.
That's better.
Way to pull it back in. She plays the mom in the family in the first season, and she's cool. I like her. In this one, she plays a homicide detective, and it's set in Rodney King, L.A. riots era, Los Angeles.
Shit.
So that's pretty intense. And basically what's happening, what she's investigating is really, really dark and gruesome, and it's amazing.
Nice.
Yeah.
That sounds awesome. I'm gonna watch that.
Oh.
I wanted to watch the first one, but every time I like went and actually looked at it, I was like, nah, I don't think so.
It's not good. It's just, I don't know. It doesn't go anywhere. The racial tension bit of it was kind of interesting, but it's shot kind of, the whole thing is kind of surreal. Like, it has this Edward Scissorhands-ish feel to the neighborhood. Not quite so fairy tale, but there's just something. You just can't, like, they're presenting this really intense, concept, but they're doing it in this weird kind of fantasy-based way that doesn't really, it didn't work for me. So,
yeah.
Anyways, but
nice.
Season 2 kicked ass.
Nice. I'll watch it. Good recommendation, sir.
It was good. Yeah.
I also watched Humane, the Caitlin Cronenberg film.
Whoa, I don't. Oh, that. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
How was it?
It was really good. So it's got Jay Baruchel in it. I love him.
Mm-hmm.
Emily Hampshire from Schitt's Creek is in it. Bunch of great people that you'll recognize as being like, oh yeah, that person.
Yeah.
It's set in like a slightly future America because of environmental collapse. They like the UN strikes an accord where every society has to lessen their population by this percent, and so it's referred to as enlisting, and it's like doing your civic duty to kill yourself so that the population can get into a place where like we can actually survive as a species. And so there's this family that's at the center of this whole thing, and the famous family, like each one is famous in their own way. They're all like super rich. They're all like in the spotlight, and at least partially responsible for why things are as shitty as they are. And it's pretty fucking rad. And it's weird because you saw the Brandon Cronenberg one, the one where they were like cloning themselves and then watching themselves get killed. Yeah. And then at the end he gives like a whole big speech about like genealogy or some shit.
Yeah.
Well, and then this one is very, very like talking about family drama. It's very strange that both of the Cronenberg kids are making like body horror movies that have weird like family themes. It's like, what's going on here? And meanwhile their dad's like, what if I made a movie where people were covered in ears?
No shit. I love that movie too.
It's fucking rad.
Oh man, that's great. So I'm glad to hear that the Cronenbergs are firing on all cylinders.
Oh man, let's go. Like the whole Cronenberg family. That's way better than any of those. Like, Coppola's, get out of here. Cronenberg's up in front and center.
Hit the bricks.
Nicholas, you can stay. No one, we know that you're not a real Coppola.
That's right. Oh man. Wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
So,
I need to watch that. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's good. All right. So, speaking of needing to watch things, John, what are we going to need to watch in order to record our next episode, which will be released 2 weeks from this day?
I whittled it down to 3. So we're going to cover 3. No.
Nice.
And so, of the 3, I decided to go with one. 2 of them I hadn't seen, but I decided to go with the one that I have seen. It's something that I wanted to do for the show for a while. It's a movie from 1971 by a director named John D. Hancock, which sounds like a pseudonym. I haven't looked into that yet, but the movie's called Let's Scare Jessica to Death.
Oh, hell yes!
I love that fucking movie. It's very weird and moody and kind of creepy and very 70s-ish. It's a lot of fun. No, I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say it's a lot of F-U-N.
That's right. We're so close.
So close. I thought about doing the Brian De Palma movie Sisters with Margot Kidder. Is that her name? Nice. Who plays identical twin sisters. Well, Siamese twin sisters. And then, of course, there's like weird Brian De Palma murder shit going on. And then I also thought about doing and I didn't intentionally pick movies that were in the 71 to 72 range, but the third one that I thought about doing was Terror at Orgy Castle.
Oh yeah,
from 1971, directed by Zoltan G. Spencer.
A totally real name.
Definitely going to circle back on that one.
Yeah.
I was just doing like searches for really obscure. It's hard to find because apparently the internet thinks that like Saw 2 is obscure or whatever. Like I went to the post office yesterday, and the guy sees my name as I'm writing the thing, and he goes, "John Kramer, are you familiar with Saw?" And I'm like, "Yes, I'm fucking familiar with Saw, you dillhole." God, that's a thing. Man.
What is this story?
Oh, the movie Saw, the
Yeah.
old man that is behind all the evil, nefarious shit. Spoiler alert: his name is John Kramer.
Are you serious? I had no idea.
Yeah, it's spelled with a K. Mine's with a C, but but yeah. And like I've mentioned that game that I've been playing, and one of the people from the game saw my real name on Discord. Like they saw my main profile, and they were like, "Is that your actual name, or are you named after the movie?" And I'm like, "No, it's my actual name. God damn it!" So that's like, yeah, like you'll hear people say, "Oh yeah, the Saw franchise. You probably never heard of it." And I'm like, everybody's fucking heard of it, dude.
Yeah,
The guy at the post office saw it. So, anyways, it took me a while to find some stuff that was actually deep cuts, and Let's Scare Jessica to Death is kind of a classic. Apparently, so is Sisters, and I'd heard about that one. I just haven't seen it yet. I don't know fuck all about Terror at Orgy Castle, but it looks amazing and involves Satanism.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
This out of the three, this is the only one that I've heard of, but I haven't seen any of them. So I'm totally down for it. This is one that every time I see it, I'm like, yeah, I should watch that. But I do have this other thing to watch instead.
It's very atmospheric. It's a very uniquely kind of American film, I guess you'd say. Like it has this weird moodiness to it that I don't know. It's a cool film. It's hard to describe, I guess. It's a ghost story, but the way it's handled is pretty original. So anyways, I think it'll be fun to talk about.
I think so too. So join us in 2 weeks when we review Let's Scare Jessica to Death. John, do you want me to leave in the part where you say your first and last name?
Yeah, I don't give a shit.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, it's super easy because I say my first and last name and people are like, which one are you talking about?
Yeah. Nobody gives a shit who I am, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah. I'm just a famous former pitcher from the Florida Marlins, so it's good.
Yeah. I'm a famous science fiction writer.
Nice. All right. 2 weeks. Join us here. Don't do anything weird while we're gone. Don't you do it. Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
And as our good friend Aylmer often says, Jesus Christ, I'm sorry you have to die.